The morning sun shone through the tall glass windows of First National Bank as the automatic doors slid open. In walked a woman whose presence seemed to light up the room even more. At 42, Mei Lin was the kind of person who turned heads, not because she tried to, but because confidence had a way of drawing attention. As the CEO of Green Tech Innovations, a company that had taken the sustainable energy world by storm, Mei had built her reputation brick by brick over 15 years. Today, she wore her favorite navy blue suit, the one she called her power suit, with a simple gold necklace her grandmother had given her when she started her first job. The bank was busy that Tuesday morning. People stood in line, some checking their phones, others staring at the large clock on the wall. Mei took her place in line, smiling politely at an elderly man who nodded at her. She had a meeting in 2 hours with potential investors, and she needed to withdraw $50,000 in cash for a special business opportunity that had come up unexpectedly. When her turn came, Mei approached the teller window with a warm smile. The young man behind the counter greeted her with equal warmth. "Good morning. How can I help you today?" he asked, his name tag reading Tom. "Good morning, Tom. I'd like to make a withdrawal from my business account," Mei said, sliding her identification and bank card across the counter. Tom's fingers moved quickly across his keyboard. "And how much will you be withdrawing today?" $50,000, please, Mei replied, keeping her voice low. Something changed in Tom's expression, subtle, but Mei noticed it immediately. His eyes darted to his computer screen, then to a manager sitting at a desk behind him, then back to Mei. "One moment, please," he said, his cheerful tone now replaced with something more formal. Mei watched as Tom walked over to his manager and leaned down to whisper something. The manager, a middle-aged woman with glasses hanging from a chain around her neck, glanced at Mei, frowned slightly, and nodded. Tom returned. "I'm sorry, but for a withdrawal of this size, we'll need additional verification. Would you mind waiting while I get my manager?" Mei checked her watch. "Of course," she said, though she'd never been asked for additional verification before, despite making similar withdrawals in the past. The manager approached, introducing herself as Mrs. Reynolds. "Ms. Lin, we have some security protocols for large cash withdrawals. May I ask what this money is for?" Mei felt a flicker of annoyance but kept her expression neutral. "It's for a business investment opportunity. I've been a premium client here for over 15 years, and I've made similar withdrawals before without any issues." Mrs. Reynolds glanced around, lowering her voice. "Yes, but we've updated our protocols. We'll need to verify funds with your company's financial department and possibly see documentation for the investment." By now, people in line were watching. Mei felt heat rising to her cheeks, not from embarrassment, but from the slow realization that something wasn't right. She pulled out her phone and showed it her banking app. "Here's my account balance. As you can see, there are more than sufficient funds. I'm the CEO of my company. There is no financial department to call for verification." Mrs. Reynolds smiled tightly. "I understand your frustration, but these measures are for your protection. Perhaps you could come back tomorrow after we've had time to process this request properly." Mei looked around the bank. A man in a suit at another teller window was counting what looked like a substantial amount of cash, his transaction apparently proceeding without issue. "Is there anything else I can provide right now to complete this transaction?" Mei asked, trying to keep her voice steady despite feeling increasingly uncomfortable with the growing audience of waiting customers. "I'm afraid not today," Mrs. Reynolds said with finality. "We take financial security very seriously." Mei gathered her identification and bank card, thanked them both with forced politeness, and walked out of the bank. As the doors closed behind her, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. The sting of being dismissed, of being treated as somehow less trustworthy than others. Standing on the sidewalk, watching people pass by, Mei took a deep breath. This wasn't just about one transaction or one bad day. Something told her this was about much more, and she wasn't going to let it go. Little did the bank know that their refusal that day would soon spark a chain of events that nobody could have predicted. Mei Lin sat in her office, tapping her pen against the edge of her desk. The glass walls gave her a view of her employees hard at work, but today she barely noticed them. Her mind kept replaying the scene at the bank over and over. She picked up her phone and scrolled through her contacts, stopping at the name Priya Patel. Priya ran a successful tech company across town. They had met at a business conference 3 years ago and often shared advice. "You won't believe what happened to me today," May said when Priya answered. As Mai described the bank incident, Priya's voice changed. "Wait, was this at First National? Downtown branch?" "Yes," Meg replied, sitting up straighter. "Why?" "The exact same thing happened to me last month. I tried to withdraw $30,000 for a company retreat, and they gave me such a hard time I almost walked out." A chill ran down May's spine. "Did they tell you it was for security reasons?" "Yes, and when I went back with my financial officer, a man, suddenly there was no problem." May ended the call and immediately dialed another number. This time she called Lin Wei, who owned a chain of organic grocery stores. The story Lin told was eerily similar. By lunchtime, Mai had spoken with 5 other women business owners. All had experienced unusual scrutiny when trying to access their own money. All were successful. All were women of color. "I need you to find something for me," Mai told her assistant, Raj, who appeared at her door with her afternoon tea. Raj, always efficient, returned an hour later with a folder. "I found these public records about First National Bank," he said, placing the folder on her desk. "And I printed out their official policies on large withdrawals from their website." Mai flipped through the documents, her frown deepening with each page. According to the official policy, any account holder could withdraw up to $100,000 with proper identification, no additional approval required. Yet another document showed that First National had been flagged by a consumer watchdog group for inconsistent customer treatment last year. Most telling was an article from a financial magazine featuring First National's CEO, a white-haired man named Harold Wilson, talking about the importance of personal relationships in banking. The photo showed him golfing with a group of men who looked remarkably like him. "There's something else," Raj said hesitantly. "I talked to my cousin who works at Capital Bank. He says it's common knowledge that First National has an unwritten policy they call high-risk client flagging, but he thinks the system is biased." Mai stayed out her window at the city skyline. The founder of Green Tech Innovations, who had secured millions in venture capital funding and created technology that was changing the energy industry, had been treated like a potential criminal for trying to access her own money. She picked up her phone again, this time calling Jin Park, her old college roommate who now ran a law firm specializing in discrimination cases. "Don't file a complaint yet," Jin advised after hearing the story. "Those things get buried. If what you're suspecting is true, this is systematic. You need evidence." Mai hung up and opened her laptop. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she created a new document titled Banking Access Project. By the time the office emptied that evening, Mai had developed the outline of a plan. It wasn't just about her withdrawal anymore. If what she suspected was true, this was about something much bigger, a subtle form of discrimination that was nearly impossible to prove when experienced individually, but might become clear when viewed as a pattern. She texted Priya, "Can you meet tomorrow? Bringing a few others. I have an idea." As Mai packed up her things to leave, she noticed a notification on her phone. An automated message from First National Bank thanking her for her patience and assuring her that her service experience matters. Mai almost laughed. They had no idea how much it mattered, or what she was about to do next. This wasn't just about one CEO or one bank transaction. This was about changing a system that had been quietly working against people like her for years. And Mei Lin was just getting started. The conference room at Green Tech Innovations buzzed with energy as Mei looked around at the faces of 11 women and 4 men who had answered her call. Outside, rain tapped against the windows, but inside, ideas were flowing like electricity. "Thank you all for coming," May said, standing at the head of the table. "Especially on such short notice." Priya nodded from her seat near the door. "After what you told me, I wouldn't miss it." Mai clicked a button, and a screen lit up behind her. "I've been thinking about this all night. If we're right, and First National is treating certain clients differently based on who they are rather than their financial standing, we need to prove it. Not with stories, but with data." She pulled up a spreadsheet. "I've analyzed my own banking experiences over the past 5 years. Out of 28 large transactions, I've been questioned or delayed 14 times. That's 50%. A woman with curly hair raised her hand. I'm Amara from Bright Path Consulting. I've had similar experiences. But how do we prove it's not just random caution? May smiled. That's why you're all here. I'm proposing something I call Operation Fair Banking, a controlled test. Over the next hour, the group hammered out a plan. Each person would attempt to make similar size withdrawals or transactions at different First National branches across the city. They would record their experiences using a simple app May's tech team had created overnight. The app would track everything from wait times to questions asked to final outcomes. We need to be scientific about this, said Raj, who had joined the meeting to take notes. Everyone needs to dress in business attire of similar quality, use the same language when requesting services, and have comparable account histories. We'll need men too, added Jin, May's lawyer friend, and people of different backgrounds, to really see if there's a pattern. Theo, the CFO of a local restaurant chain and one of the few men in the room, looked up from his notebook. I'm in, and I can bring 3 more guys from my business network. By the end of the meeting, 20 people had committed to the plan. All were successful business owners or executives with legitimate banking needs. They would conduct their test over the next 2 weeks, then meet again to analyze the results. This isn't about getting revenge on one bank teller or manager, May reminded everyone as they were leaving. It's about seeing if there's a system that needs changing. The next 2 weeks were a blur of activity. Mai continued running her company while coordinating the banking tests. Each night, she pored over the incoming data, patterns slowly emerging like stars becoming visible in the night sky. On a Tuesday afternoon, exactly 14 days after her own rejection at the bank, May stood before the same group, now expanded to 25 people. The room was silent as she revealed the results. The data is clear, she said, pointing to a graph. Women faced additional scrutiny 78% more often than men making identical transactions. For women of color specifically, that number jumps to 92%. She clicked to the next slide. Average wait times for approval, 24 minutes for white men, 47 minutes for men of color, 53 minutes for white women, and 72 minutes for women of color. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. That can't be coincidence, Pryor said, her voice tight. No, agreed Theo. I walked in, asked for $45,000 cash with barely any ID check, and was out in 15 minutes. The same day, Amara tried for hours and was denied. Mai clicked to another slide. But here's what's really interesting. When participants mentioned their company names or titles up front, the disparities decreased by about 30%. It seems respect is granted based on perceived status. Jin, who had been quiet until now, stood up. This is enough for a discrimination case. We could file a class action lawsuit. Mai shook her head. I've been thinking about this a lot. A lawsuit could take years, and even if we won, would it really change anything? I have another idea. She pulled up one final slide, showing a small but growing local bank called Community United. What if instead of fighting the old system, we reward a better one? What if we use our combined economic power to show that treating people equally isn't just right, it's profitable? The room went silent again, but this time it was the silence of people realizing they had something much more powerful than a complaint. They had leverage. Tell me more, Pryor said, leaning forward. May smiled. Well, it starts with moving about $200 million. Camera lights flashed as Mei Lin stepped up to the podium. The press conference had been called to announce Green Tech Innovation's latest solar energy project, but Mai had something else on her agenda today. She smiled warmly at the crowd of journalists. Thank you all for coming. Before I talk about our newest sustainable energy initiative, I'd like to make a different announcement. The room quieted. Mai took a deep breath. Effective immediately, Green Tech Innovations will be transferring all its accounts, valued at over $200 million, from First National Bank to Community United Bank. A murmur rippled through the crowd. A reporter in the front row raised his hand. Ms. Lin, that's unusual news for a tech announcement. Can you explain why? May nodded. I believe in transparency, so yes. 2 weeks ago, I was denied a standard withdrawal from my company's account at First National despite being a premium client for 15 years. This led me to discover a pattern of inconsistent treatment affecting many business owners, particularly women and minorities. She gestured to a screen behind her, which displayed simple but powerful graphs showing the data from their banking test. Rather than simply complain, my colleagues and I conducted a controlled study involving 25 business owners making similar transactions. The results were troubling. The journalists were scribbling frantically now, a few taking photos of the data on the screen. To be clear, Mai continued, this isn't about one bad experience or one branch. Our data shows systematic differences in how people are treated when trying to access their own money. A woman from Channel 7 stood up. Are you filing a lawsuit? Mai shook her head. No. Instead, we're choosing to support institutions that already demonstrate the values of equality and fair treatment. Community United has one of the most diverse leadership teams in the banking industry and transparent policies that apply equally to all customers. She looked around the room, making eye contact with several reporters. This isn't just about moving money from one bank to another. It's about using our economic choices to create the world we want to live in. The questions came rapid fire after that. Mai answered each one calmly, sharing personal stories from other business owners who had agreed to go public. She was careful never to sound angry or vengeful, just determined and matter-of-fact. And what about your new solar project? Asked a young man from the business section of the local paper, attempting to bring the conversation back to the scheduled topic. Mai smiled. I'm glad you asked. Our new solar initiative aims to bring affordable clean energy to neighborhoods that have historically been underserved by utility companies. In many ways, it's driven by the same principles as today's banking announcement. Everyone deserves equal access to essential services, whether that's banking or energy. She went on to describe the solar project, skillfully weaving the two topics together. When the press conference ended, Mai's phone was already buzzing nonstop. News alerts popped up on her screen. CEO makes bold move against banking giant. Banking discrimination exposed by tech leader. Green tech innovations pulls millions in stand for equality. Back in her office, Mai found Raj waiting with a cup of tea. You've created quite a storm, he said, handing her the steaming mug. First National's PR team just released a statement calling your claims unsubstantiated and based on misunderstandings. Mai took a sip of tea. They can say what they want. The data speaks for itself. Her phone rang. It was Priya. Mai, it's happening. 3 more companies just called me. They're moving their accounts too. And Community United CEO wants to meet with us tomorrow. Before Mai could respond, another call beeped in. A national business news channel wanting an interview. By evening, 7 companies had publicly announced they were following Green Tech's lead. Community United's website had crashed from traffic as small business owners across the city began researching account options. Did you expect it to blow up this fast? Raj asked as they watched the evening news covering the story. Mai looked out at the city lights coming on in the dusk. I hoped it would. But this is just the beginning. She picked up her phone to find 32 messages waiting. One was from the office of First National's CEO, requesting a private meeting. Mai smiled as she set the phone down without replying. Some conversations could wait. Right now, the world was finally listening. Mei Lin couldn't remember the last time her email inbox had crashed. As CEO of a growing tech company, she received hundreds of messages daily, but this morning was different. 3 days after her press conference, her assistant had to set up a separate email account just to handle the flood of responses. You've got messages from business owners in every state, Raj told her, handing over a tablet with the latest count. And 17 more companies have publicly announced they're moving their money. Mai scrolled through the list, recognizing several major players in the tech industry. One manufacturing company alone was shifting over $80 million in accounts. First National's stock dropped another 3 points this morning, Priya said, walking into Mai's office without knocking. They'd given up on formalities days ago. That's 7% down since your announcement. Mai looked out her window at the city skyline. This was never about hurting one bank. It's about changing how things work. Well, you're definitely doing that, Priya replied, dropping a newspaper on the desk. The headline read, "Banking Revolution. Female CEO Sparks Industry Shakeup." May's phone buzzed with a text from Jin, her lawyer friend. Community United just called. Their new account applications are up 580% from last week. They're bringing in extra staff to handle it. The ripple effect was spreading faster than Mai had imagined. That afternoon, she received a call from the Asian Business Association asking her to speak at their conference. By evening, 3 more business groups had reached out with similar requests. "You should see what's happening online," Raj said, showing her a social media feed. Hashtag banking quality and hashtag move your money were trending, with thousands of people sharing their own stories of banking discrimination. One post from a small bakery owner caught May's attention. "Been running my business for 12 years. Today I moved my accounts after reading about Mei Lin." The bank manager asked why. I showed her story and said, "This happened to me too, 3 times. Mei was still reading through messages when her office door opened again. This time it was Theo, looking uncharacteristically excited. "You won't believe this," he said, waving his phone. "The Banking Association just announced an emergency meeting to discuss customer service standards. They're specifically looking at withdrawal policies and wait times for different customer demographics." Mei raised an eyebrow. "They didn't mention us." "Not directly," Theo grinned, "but everyone knows what prompted it." Later that evening, Mei hosted an impromptu dinner at her apartment for the original group who had helped with the banking test. 15 people squeezed into her living room, sharing pizza and stories as they scrolled through news updates. "Look at this," Amara said, passing her tablet around. She had pulled up Community United's website, which now featured a new banner, "Banking for Everyone, Equal Treatment, Exceptional Service." They've added a page explaining that equal service commitment, someone else pointed out. And they're hiring 50 new employees to handle the growth. The conversation turned to other banks that were now reaching out to some of the business owners, promising better treatment and asking for a chance to earn their business. "The best part," Jin said, refilling her glass of water, "is how many people are telling their own stories now. People who just accepted the extra scrutiny or delays for years, thinking it was normal or that they were imagining things." May's phone buzzed again. This time it was a message she'd been half expecting for days. "Ms. Lin, this is Harold Wilson, CEO of First National Bank. I think it's time we talked. In person, tomorrow." She showed the message to the room. "Are you going to meet with him?" Priya asked. May nodded slowly. "Yes, but not alone. And not without data." She looked around at the group that had come together over shared experiences and a desire for change. "Anyone want to join me?" Hands shot up around the room. As the evening wound down and people began to leave, Mai stepped onto her small balcony for a moment of quiet. Below, the city lights twinkled. Somewhere out there, thousands of people were having conversations about banking fairness that would have seemed unlikely just weeks ago. Her phone pinged with yet another message. A woman in another state had started a similar movement targeting mortgage lending practices. This wasn't just about one CEO or one bank anymore. It had become something much bigger, exactly as Mai had hoped. The lobby of First National Bank's headquarters gleamed with marble and polished brass. Mai Lin walked through the revolving doors with Priya and Jin on either side of her. They had decided 3 women would make the right statement, professional but unmistakable. "Ms. Lin, welcome," said a young man in a tailored suit. "Mr. Wilson is expecting you. This way, please." As they rode the elevator to the top floor, Mai thought about how different this visit felt from her trip to the bank branch just 3 weeks earlier. Today, no one was making her wait or questioning her right to be here. The elevator doors opened directly into a large office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Harold Wilson, First National CEO, stood up from behind a massive desk. He was tall with silver hair and the deep tan of someone who spent weekends on golf courses. "Ms. Lin, thank you for coming," he said, extending his hand. His smile looked practiced, like something he put on for board meetings and press photos. Mai shook his hand firmly. "Thank you for the invitation. These are my colleagues, Priya Patel and Jin Won." Wilson nodded to them, seeming slightly thrown off by the additional guests. "Please have a seat. Can I offer you anything?" Coffee? Water? They all declined politely and took seats in the leather chairs arranged in front of his desk. "I'll get right to the point," Wilson said, folding his hands. "There seems to be a misunderstanding that's gotten out of hand. First National values all its customers equally. What happened at our downtown branch was an isolated incident, perhaps a new employee being overly cautious." May raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Wilson, with all due respect, our research shows that it wasn't isolated at all. We have documented evidence of systematic differences in how your bank treats different types of customers." "Research based on anecdotes," Wilson said, his smile tightening. "Banking is complex, Ms. Lin. There are many factors that go into security protocols." Jin cleared her throat. "Actually, our study controlled for those factors. Account size, history, transaction type, everything was matched except the customers themselves." Wilson's smile disappeared entirely. "I see. Well, we've already issued a statement addressing these concerns. We're conducting an internal review." "Is that why you called this meeting?" May interrupted. "To tell us about a press release?" The room went silent. Outside the windows, clouds drifted past, casting shifting shadows across the office floor. Wilson sighed, suddenly looking older. "No. I called this meeting because 7 of our largest commercial accounts have left in a week. Our board is concerned." "They should be," Pryor said quietly. May opened her laptop. "Mr. Wilson, I'd like to show you something." She turned the screen toward him, displaying a document titled First National Bank, Internal Priority Assessment. It was dated 6 months earlier. "Where did you get this?" Wilson asked, his face paling slightly. "It was sent to me anonymously yesterday," May replied. "Apparently, some of your employees are concerned too. This document shows that your bank identified potential bias in customer service delivery last year, but classified addressing it as low priority due to minimal financial impact." Wilson's jaw tightened. He reached for a button on his desk phone. "Susan, please cancel my next appointment." Turning back to May, his tone changed completely. "What exactly do you want?" "Systemic change," May answered simply. "Not just at First National, but across the industry." For the next hour, the conversation shifted from denial to grudging acknowledgement to cautious planning. Wilson called in his head of operations and customer service director. By the time they left, May had secured commitments for a complete policy review, bias training for all customer-facing staff, and most importantly, transparent metrics that would be publicly reported. "They're scared," Jin remarked as they rode the elevator back down. "7 days ago, they dismissed your claims as misunderstandings. Today, they're agreeing to independent auditors." "Money talks," Pryor said with a small smile. "And lately, it's been saying goodbye to First National." Outside, reporters were waiting. Someone had leaked news of the meeting. "Ms. Lin, what happened in there? Is First National making changes?" May looked at her friends, then faced the cameras. "First National has agreed to meaningful reforms that we believe will benefit all customers. This isn't just about one bank, it's about changing industry standards." As camera flashes popped around her, May's phone buzzed with a news alert. Federal banking regulators launch investigation into discriminatory practices. The movement she'd started was growing beyond anything she could control now, exactly as she'd hoped. That evening, May received another unexpected message. The American Banking Association wanted her to help draft new industry guidelines for equitable banking practices. From being refused her own money to reshaping how banks operated, all in less than a month. May smiled as she typed her response. "I'd be honored to help." 1 year later, May Lin stood backstage at the National Business Leadership Awards, listening to the soft hum of conversation from the audience. Through a gap in the curtains, she could see hundreds of well-dressed people seated at round tables with glowing centerpieces. "Nervous?" asked Pryor, appearing beside her in an elegant blue dress. May smoothed her own red gown. "A little. It's been a busy year." "That's one way to put it," Pryor laughed. The host's voice boomed through the speakers. "Our next award recognizes not just business success, but transformative leadership that changes entire industries. This year's recipient grew her company Green Tech Innovations by an astonishing 40%, while simultaneously sparking a nationwide movement for banking equality. A video began playing on the massive screens, showing news clips and photographs from the past year. There was May at the original press conference, May testifying before a congressional committee on financial services, May shaking hands with the president of Community United Bank at the opening of their third new branch. When this CEO was denied access to her own company's funds, she didn't just get angry, the narrator continued. She got creative, and in doing so, she transformed a personal slight into an industry-wide revolution. The audience applauded as May walked onto the stage. Camera flashes popped like stars as she accepted the Crystal Award. "Thank you," she said into the microphone, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "This past year has been extraordinary, but I didn't start it looking to win awards." She paused, looking out at the sea of faces. "I simply wanted to be treated with the same respect given to any other CEO when accessing my company's funds." What began as one uncomfortable afternoon in a bank lobby quickly revealed a pattern that affected thousands of business owners, particularly women and minorities. Mai glanced down at her notes, then decided to speak from the heart instead. The real story isn't about what one bank did wrong. It's about how we can build systems that work right for everyone. In just 12 months, we've seen remarkable changes. She ticked off points on her fingers. First National Bank has implemented comprehensive reforms, including bias training for all staff, transparent withdrawal policies, and diversity in leadership. Their new board now includes 3 women and 2 people of color. The audience nodded approvingly. The Lynn Standard, as some have called it, has been adopted by 27 major financial institutions. Community United has grown from a small local bank to opening 3 new branches. And most significantly, reports of discriminatory banking practices have decreased by 62% nationwide. She held up the Crystal Award, which caught the stage lights and scattered tiny rainbows across her hands. But the most meaningful change can't be measured in statistics. It's in the emails I receive daily from people who finally feel seen and respected when they walk into their banks. It's in the young woman who told me she decided to start her own business because she saw what happened when we stand up for ourselves. It's in the bank teller who wrote to thank me for helping create a workplace where treating everyone equally isn't just a slogan, it's how they do business. The room was completely silent now, everyone leaning forward slightly in their seats. Sometimes, May said with a small smile, being denied access to your own money turns out to be priceless when it creates access and equality for everyone else. The audience rose to their feet, applause thundering through the ballroom. Later that night, May sat in a quiet corner of the after-party with the original group who had helped with the banking test. They'd become close friends over the past year, supporting each other through the media attention, the criticism, and the victories. "Did you ever imagine it would go this far?" Jin asked, sipping her sparkling water. May shook her head. "Never. I just wanted to make a withdrawal." They all laughed, but there was a deeper understanding in the sound, the knowledge that sometimes the smallest moments can spark the biggest changes. As May drove home that night, her award carefully wrapped on the passenger seat, she passed a First National Bank branch. Through the windows, she could see the new signs they'd installed, "Equal Service Guaranteed" and "Your Money, Your Right." She smiled to herself. The next time someone walked into that bank, they'd be treated with respect, no matter who they were. And that was worth more than any award could ever be.